name is Professor Chirag Chothani and I welcome you all on behalf of JK Shah classes. Today we are meeting to discuss two chapters, chapter number 3 and chapter number 4. Chapter number 3 is money market, chapter number 4 will be our international trade. Now, what we are going to do? So in both the chapters, first of all I am going to revise the entire chapter and we will look at the notes that you already have. In that notes, we will be doing some important marking which you need to do very nicely for your examination. Alright, so without speaking much, let us begin directly with our chapter number 3. As you all know students, the name of the chapter is money market. Money market is divided into how many parts students? So it is divided into 3 parts. First one, it is demand for money. Second one, it is concept of money supply, and third one is nothing but monetary policy. The first one that we are going to start with, it is, as you all know, concept of money demand. Concept of money demand. Now, what is this topic all about? So, do you remember? We divide this topic into 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? First one can be meaning, important concepts, then it will be functions, and finally it is nothing but characteristics. Characteristics are features. Then we have the understanding of this concept which is called as money demand, and lastly the most important part, it is called as theories. Now in theories, it is further classified into 2 parts. What are the 2 parts? First one, it is pre-Keynesian theory, the other one will be post-Keynesian theory. Now sir, why is it pre-Keynesian and post-Keynesian? Might come to your mind. Because J.M. Keynes gave the most profound theory of demand for money. So till the time he gave the theory, all the theories are called as pre-Keynesian. And after he gave the theory, there were just addition, or his theory was considered as base for constructing all other theories. That's why they are called as post-Keynesian theory of trade or post-Keynesian theory of demand for money. Now, let's focus on the first part. It is meaning for money or meaning of money, concept of money, functions of money, characteristics of money. Most simplest answer. Now students, if you are a commerce student, then I am very sure this you must have studied in junior college also. First of all, meaning of money. Money is what money does. You have heard this definition n number of times. Money is what money does. Now what do you mean by this statement? Any commodity or any financial asset which can satisfy the functions of money, only then it can be termed as money. Now when I say functions of money, you need to concentrate here. What are the functions of money? Medium of exchange, store of value, unit of account, common measure of value. If all these functions are satisfied by any financial asset, then it will be called as money. Now by looking at this terminology, we get supreme excited. We say, oh, why we know money. What is money? Yeah, bro, no problem. I can tell you what's money. Alright, money is cash. Money is GPay. Money is cards. Money is bank transfers. Right, money will be checks. Now, latest in fashion, it is cryptocurrencies and so on. But let me tell you friends, see, let's be very realistic. If you try to pay an auto rickshaw driver, a bus driver by check or by bank transfer, will they accept? Cryptocurrency, if you try to pay, will they accept? Is GPay, Paytm accepted by all? I say, when it is accepted by most of them, but not all. So even today, cash is the most primary form of money. So cash is called as actual money. Whereas all these things, even today, are called as near money. Are you getting this? So when we talk about money, actually we are talking about actual money which is printed and circulated by RBI in our country. So actual money, friends, money is what money does. So actual money can be used as medium of exchange. It helps us for common measure of value, for store of value, as well as it has a unit of account. So it functions, it basically fulfills all the functions of the money. That's why it can be cash, 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 liquid cash can be called as money. Apart from that, students, now this was meaning and functions. Now what are the concepts? Concepts, we have to understand something called as legal tender money. Have you come across this word earlier? Legal tender money. Now what do you mean by legal tender money? It is the form of money which is guaranteed by the government that this is a valid money. Don't worry about it, you can use this money, right? So if you just check the currency note of India, it is written guaranteed by government of India. That's why it makes its legal tender money. Now students, few years back in 2016 November, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji had announced demonetization in the country. If you have listened to his speech, he was very clear in his speech. He said, from tonight onwards, 500 rupee currency note and 1000 rupee currency note will no longer be legal tender money. Now, what do you mean by no longer be legal tender money? That is, it was money, but government is revoking, is taking back its guarantee from that currency notes. So that is legal tender money. Apart from that, students, there is one more thing which is called as fiat money that you need to know. Fiat money is the money which is printed by RBI. Which is printed by whom? RBI, on the orders of the government. So when government is in need of money and they are not having foreign exchange, they are not having gold reserves, so they can ask RBI to print the currency note against the government securities. This type of money is called as fiat money. And apart from that, there is one more concept which is called as face value versus intrinsic value. Now what do you mean by face value and what do you mean by intrinsic value? Face value is what is written on the currency note or currency coin. Intrinsic value is the backup. Now in 5 rupee currency coin, if you see students, 5 rupees that is written on this, it will be called as what? It will be called as face value. But the value of the metal is called as the intrinsic value. Similarly, in currency notes, I asked this to students. I don't know where do they get this idea from. I asked them, in a currency note, if let's suppose there is 2000 rupee currency note, what is the face value? They say 2000 rupees. That is right. What is intrinsic value? They say value of the paper. Now, how on planet Earth can you think that intrinsic value of 2000 rupees will be less than the intrinsic value of 5 rupee coin? Paper valuation will of course be less than the metal, isn't it? So that means that assumption itself is wrong. Now when I say this, there are some people who come up with an idea, sir, printing cost. What are you saying? Printing cost, how can it be intrinsic value? So what is in actual sense the intrinsic value? See, whenever we are printing currency, we need to keep some reserves. So whatever reserves we have kept in order to print that 2000 rupee currency note, that reserves are called as intrinsic value. So as I mentioned, intrinsic value is what? It is the backup. And whatever is written on the currency note, it will be the face value. Understood this part? Very simple. That is our concepts of money. And lastly, students, if you understand, what are the characteristics? Now, characteristics of money are very basic, very simple to understand because our parents have been teaching this since our childhood, right? What, don't throw money here and there. That means it is a medium of exchange. It can be easily taken over by anyone. You don't know the value of money. You will only know about it when you start earning. Okay. That means money is rare and it cannot be, it should not be wasted. Money is not grown on trees. That means what? It is relatively scarce. Okay. And then, I am not having printing machine where I can go on print money and then you can go and spend. That means money is difficult to counterfeit. So all these characteristics, students, our parents have been telling to us about money. What is money? It is nothing but generally acceptable, anyone can accept it. It is easy to carry from one place to another. There is divisibility which can take place. There is homogeneity. All the money looks identical or the same, right? So all these are nothing but characteristics or features. Friends, in your examination you can be asked about these concepts, about the functions or the characteristics of money. 2 marks each. Please, please, please write this very nicely. You will get full 2 marks. Okay, let's have a look at this question. Concept of a money demand. Define money and describe the nature and characteristic. Okay, money is center of every economic transaction and plays a significant role. This much is important if you need to understand. Money may be defined as the liquid financial asset, the variation in the stock of which will have impact on aggregate economic activity. Money has generalized purchasing power and is generally acceptable on settlement of all transactions. Now, what are the characteristics, friends? So let's discuss some characteristics. You cannot miss out on any characteristics. Quite often this question is asked for 2 marks. You need to know this question very, very, very nicely. It is generally acceptable, it should be durable in nature, that is long lasting. And if you see, our currency notes and currency coins are quite long lasting, right? For example, if you take the normal paper and if it becomes wet, then it will be like gone, it will tear apart. But if you look at the currency note, I am sure you must have done, did this. This is kind of Indian way to preserve our currency note in the back into position. You must have seen many people doing this. Whenever you are, you are wet in rain, so at that time, if the currency note that you are having, it is also wet, so you will put it, and you will iron it, or you will keep it on a, if you are making roti or chapati, at that time you will put it on that, so it will be back to its normal shape. So our currency, it is durable in nature, effortlessly recognizable, easy to recognize, difficult to counterfeit, no one should copy it, it should be relatively scarce, it should be portable, that means easy to transport from one place to another, it should possess uniformity, it should be divisible into smaller parts, can be divided into smaller units. Now, next part, what are the functions which are performed by money? Now see, students, we have wrote so much in order to make you understand about these concepts. However, you need not write this much in your examination. You have to write only 3 to 4 lines in every point. That is it. Okay, let's have a look at it. The first one is nothing but medium of exchange. What are the functions? First one is medium of exchange. Now when I say medium of exchange, money is a convenient medium of exchange. It is an instrument that facilitates easy exchange of goods and services. Okay, so it is convenient medium of exchange that facilitates easy exchange of goods and services. It does not have inherent power to directly satisfy. See this, not having any inherent power to directly satisfy human wants. That means what? It is having an indirect demand. That means we demand money so that we can demand other commodities. So it acts as a medium of exchange and it commands purchasing power. See, these are the important words that you need to have. Medium of exchange, purchasing power. It enables us to purchase goods and services to satisfy our wants, right? And last point that you need to write, money increases the ease of trade and reduces the inefficiency and transaction cost involved in barter exchange. That is it. If you write these type of words in your point, students, definitely you are getting full marks. Okay, next one, unit of account. Now what do you mean by unit of account? It is very simple. See this, in India we are using rupees, yes or no? So INR or rupees is nothing but our unit of account. In United States of America we are having dollars. In this country called as England, we are having pound, and for Japan we are having yen. So whatever currency denomination we are using, that will be called as our unit of account. So have a look at it. When I talk about unit of account, money is an explicitly defined unit of account or unit of value. Put differently, money is also a common measure of value or a common denominator of value. We know rupee is the unit of account in which the entire money is denominated. More than sufficient. Easy. Let's go ahead. Next one, standard of deferred payments. Now, what do you mean by standard of deferred payments? It can be used, money can be used for the future payments, right? So, let's have a look at it. It serves as a unit of standard or deferred payments. That is, money facilitates recording deferred promises to pay. Deferred promises to pay, that means future payment. We can pay that. Money in the use of terms which future payment are contracted or stated. However, variation in the purchasing power of money due to inflation or deflation reduces the efficacy of money in this function. Definitely, our inflation and deflation value will change the money valuation. However, still, standard of deferred payments can be done in the most efficient manner by money. Next one and last one, it has got a very important aspect which we call it as store of value. People prefer to hold it as an asset, right? People hold it as an asset. Why? Because they think it is part of their wealth. So it is part of their stock of wealth. The splitting of purchase and sale in two transactions involves in both time and space. You can use it at various times, you can use it in multiple space. That means you are in Chennai right now. If you want to take money and you want to use it in Bangalore, you are free to do that. So time and space can be split up. Next one, this separation is possible only money can be used as store of value or store of means of making the payment during the intervening time. Rather than spending one's money at present, one can store it for some future time. Anyway, these are the important points, students, that you need to remember in the functions. Okay, I hope you are very clear in this. Let's go ahead, students, and understand one important aspect, and that is nothing but money demand. Now, what do you mean by money demand? So, demand for money or money demand is nothing but desire for holding liquid cash. So, right now, if I ask you this, sir, how much money you are having right now in your wallet? Check it right now. Don't worry. Check it now. Okay. So now in your wallet, in your drawer, whatever money you have kept, I'm not asking about the bank account. I'm not asking about your Paytm wallet. I'm asking how much cash you are having right now. So you would say, sir, I am having, let's suppose, 2000 paisa. That is 20 rupees. Okay. So 20 rupees you are having, 50 rupees, 100 rupees you are having, or let's suppose if I talk about in crores, so let's suppose someone of you would be having 0 crore rupees, right? So whatever amount you are having right now in your wallet, that is your demand for money. So demand for money is nothing but desire for holding liquid cash or to hold cash in its liquid form is called as demand for money. Okay, so it is basically demand for liquidity. Now, when we talk about demand for money, it might be influenced because of four things. Demand for money can be influenced because of four things. Now, what are that four things? Let's talk about that. Number one, it is income. How income and demand for money influence. Next one is price level and demand for money. Third one, friends, it is interest rate and demand for money. Fourth and last one will be financial innovation and demand for money. Okay, so let's begin. Now, income and demand for money. Let's suppose if the income is high, a rich person will definitely have a higher demand for money and a poor person will have a lower demand for money. So there is direct relationship between income and demand for money. Similarly, friends, when I talk about price, if the price is high, demand for money will also be high. If the price is low, the demand for money will also be low. That means again there is direct relationship between price and demand for money. Interest rate. If banks are offering you a very high interest rate, why would you keep money in hand? You will deposit in the bank, right? So you will deposit in the bank, which means your demand for money will be less. Similarly, if let's suppose your interest rate that you are getting in the banks, it is less, what will happen to your demand for money? It will rise. So there is inverse relationship here. And lastly, friends, Financial innovation, if we are having credit cards, debit cards, Paytm, Google Pay, Phone Pay, UPI, Bheem, and so many other options to make the payment. In order to make the payment, if we are having so many innovation, at that time we will carry less cash, so demand for money will be less. And similarly friends, if financial innovation, let's suppose if it is a very backward, in some countries it is very backward, they are not progressive like India, so in that case still they rely on liquid cash only, so demand for money will be high. So there is which relationship? Inverse relationship. So if a question is asked about demand for money, students, please remember you have to just explain what is demand for money. It is demand for liquid cash, and you have to influence, or you have to write these 4 points which are influencing demand for money. So that's our second concept. Now let's go on to the third one and the final one, but the largest one. It is nothing but theories of demand for money. Theories of demand for money, friends, it is going to be divided, as I have already mentioned, into two parts. First one, pre-Keynesian, and next one will be post-Keynesian. Now, what is pre-Keynesian and what is post-Keynesian? There are three theories in pre-Keynesian, three in post-Keynesian. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. The first theory in pre-Keynesian, it is called as classical approach. What's the name? What's the name? Classical approach. Now, in case of classical approach, first of all, this theory is also called as quantity theory of money. So, quantity theory of money, this theory was given by Professor Irving Fisher. Please try to by heart this, okay? Who gave this theory? Come on, Professor Irving Fisher. This theory was given in the year 1911 at Yale University. And lastly, he wrote this theory in his book, which is called as The Purchasing Power of Money. Now, according to Mr. Fisher, demand for money, okay, can be expressed with the help of equation of exchange. What is equation of exchange? So according to Irving Fisher, MV, that is money velocity, will be equal to PT, that is price transaction. What is M? Money. What is V? Velocity. What is P? Price. And what is T? Transaction. According to Professor Irving Fisher, transaction and velocity will take care of itself. The number of transactions go on increasing, the velocity, that is the transfer of money from one place to another, one person to another, velocity is basically shifting hands, so that will go on increasing with the increase in level of transaction. So transactions and velocity will take care of itself. According to Mr. Fisher, this price will be determined by the level of money that people have. I repeat again, the price of a particular product will be determined by the money that people have or people hold in their hands. Sir, how? Let me take one small example. Try to visualize a very poor, locality in the city or in the country or in the state where you are right now. Try to imagine or visualize a very poor part of the society. There are slums, there are people who are not having money to buy goods and services, okay? And visualize another locality, the most expensive locality that you have known, right? So from various countries, there are various localities. Similarly in India also, in various states we have different localities which are extremely rich, elite class. So in that locality, yeah, try to visualize both. Okay, now let's talk about oranges. Now oranges in this poor locality and the same oranges in the rich locality, will it be sold at the same price? The food grains, will it be sold at the same price? The veggies, will it be sold at the same price? The restaurants, will they charge the same price? The answer is no. There will be price difference. Now what made this price difference happen in the market? So according to Mr. Fisher in 1911, he has assumed this, that price is nothing but determined by the level of demand for money. And it is quite obvious, students, because rich people are having more money to pay, that's why the sellers there will charge a higher price. Similarly, in a poor locality, people are having less money. What they will do? They will hold less money to buy the goods and services. Are you very clear in this? This is MV is equal to PT. But that's not all. He has also considered one more thing, and that is called as credit transaction. So if we also take into consideration the credit transaction, so it will be MV plus M dash V dash is equal to PT. Now what is M dash V dash? M would be credit money and V dash is credit velocity. So there is credit money and there is credit velocity. According to Professor Irving Fisher, of course, price will be determined by money, but it will also be determined by credit money. How? See, today, let's talk about property prices. In the last 10 years, the property prices have been going on increasing. Why? What was the reason that it is constantly increasing? Mobile phone. The prices have been constantly increasing, if you have not noticed. Right, price of all different types of brands, they are going on increasing their market value or the price. Right, interiors, the price is going on increasing. Automobiles, price is going on increasing. Mind well, okay. Automobile, mobile phone, housing, for all these purposes you get easily credit in the market. You must have seen big banners also. Loan at interest free EMI, right? Then phone at 0 rupees, buy now pay later. What is all this nonsense? That means credit is easily available in the market. So as and when the credit is easily available in the market, because of that, what will happen, my friend? Because of that, the sellers will go on increasing the price. So price will be determined by money as well as the credit availability of money. Very clear in this? That completes our first theory. Let's have a look at it. So quantity theory of money is not a theory about money at all. Rather, it is the price, or it is the theory of the price level. Please explain this statement. First of all, let me confess one thing here. Though I have said this as demand for money, but even Irving Fisher doesn't know that this theory represents demand for money, because he had made this theory by keeping price in mind. But by looking at this theory, other economists felt this. Okay, other economists, oh, this looks like demand for money, so let's add this theory here. And that is how it dropped in your syllabus. Okay, so now what is quantity theory of money? And one more thing, okay, I would like to say, purposely I have taken this type of dialogue in this note, that because in examination they will not directly ask you on a platter, sir, what do you mean by quantity theory of money? No, they won't be doing like that. They'll try to twist and turn. So at that time, you just need to understand what exactly they are trying to say to us. So quantity theory of money, it is one of the oldest theories of economics. It was first propounded by Mr. Irving Fisher of Yale University in his book The Purchasing Power of Money, published in the year 1911, and later by the neoclassical economist. Now, QTM demonstrates that there is a strong relationship between money and the price level. And the quantity of money is the main determinant of price level or the value of money. In other words, changes in the general price level, commodity prices, or changes in the value of purchasing power of money are determined first and foremost by the changes in the quantity of money in circulation. Now, Fisher has given one equation of exchange, which is also called as transaction approach. It is formally stated as MV is equal to PT. Now, when I say MV is equal to PT, MV is equal to PT, this is nothing but M what? M is nothing but total value of money. V is transaction. Price is, you know, you are of course aware, it is the market price, whatever is there, or the average price level, and T is nothing but the number of transactions, right? So velocity, transaction, price, and money. and there is credit transaction also involved, so in that case it will be mv plus m dash v dash is equal to pt. Now m dash is nothing but total quantity of credit money and velocity of circulation of credit money. So this is how we need to write our answer and explain in our own words, and things will be taken care of. I hope you are very clear in this. Let's go ahead to the next theory, students. Theory number 2, which is called as neoclassical theory. Second theory, it is called as neoclassical theory. Now friends, when I say neoclassical theory or neoclassical approach, this is also called as Cambridge approach. Also called as Cambridge approach. Now this theory was given by 4 different economists. Who are they? Alfred Marshall, your favorite economist from your childhood. Alfred Marshall. Then we have A.C. Pigou, Robertson, and J.M. Keynes. Okay, so these are the 4 economists who have worked on this theory. Now according to them, demand for money can be influenced because of 2 things. Number 1, it is split up of buying and selling or purchase and sale, so enabling the split up of sale and purchase. And second one is nothing but hedge against uncertainty. So these are the 2 things, students, which will define how much money that people hold. First one focuses on the number of transactions, the buying and selling that people are going to do, and second one is nothing but the precaution that they are going to take, that is nothing but the uncertainty level that they are going to face, and according to that how much people are going to store money. See, let me help you with both the understanding. First one, enabling the split up of sale and purchase, that is nothing but buying and selling transaction. See, simple. If you are going to buy and sell more, that means the selling and purchase transactions are going to go on increasing. So the demand for money will also go on increasing. Yes or no? So when we talk about demand for money, it is closely related to transactions. Higher the number of transactions, more the buying, selling, more money you will require. Second one will be hedge against uncertainty. What is hedge against uncertainty? See, there is only one certain thing in life, and that is uncertainty. I am sure you agree to this. Now, when we are talking about uncertainty levels, friends, please remember this very nicely. When we are talking about uncertainty, at that time, if you are going to face a higher level of uncertainty, what you will do? You will carry more cash with you. Simple. For example, let's suppose if you want to, let's suppose after completing a chartered accountancy, you got admitted into IIM Ahmedabad. Okay. Now, if you are going to IIM Ahmedabad, at that time to complete your post-graduation qualification, you will carry your what? You will carry more cash with you. But if you are going on a walk, let's suppose an evening walk or a morning walk, will you carry crores of rupees with you? No. Because in our surrounding, in our locality, the uncertainty level is very low. When we travel, when we go somewhere else, the uncertainty level increases. So as the uncertainty level increases, the demand for money will also increase, and vice versa. But the demand for money, that is MD, will be your proportion of the nominal income which you keep for these 2 things. What is MD is equal to KPY? MD stands for money demand or demand for money. K is nothing but proportion, and PY is nothing but your nominal income. Okay, so these are the 3 things, students, that you have here. MD is equal to KPY. Please remember this, and then if you write it in your own words, then it is completely fine, no problem. Let's have a look at the answer. Explain neoclassical theory of demand for money. This theory was developed in early 1900s. Cambridge economists, that is Alfred Marshall, Pigou, Robertson, and Keynes, then associated with Cambridge, put forward a fundamentally different approach to quantity theory, also known as also known as Neoclassical Theory or cash balance approach. The Cambridge version holds that the money increases utility, that is holding power, into two ways. First one is enabling the possibility of split up of sale and purchase, and another one is hedge against uncertainty. First one represents transaction motive, that is more and more transactions can be done, and second one is more emphasizing on precaution. However, understand this, while the first one above represents transaction motive, just as Fisher envisaged, the second one is money's role as a temporary store of wealth. Since sale and purchase of commodities by individuals do not take place simultaneously, that means there will be temporary adobe of purchasing power as a hedge against uncertainty. That means if you want to, let's suppose, buy or sell later on, like you want to store money, then there is uncertainty level. Whatever happens, for that, if there is higher level of uncertainty, you will have to hold more amount of cash. The demand for money also involves a precautionary motive in Cambridge approach. Since money gives utility in the store of wealth and precautionary modes, one can say that the money is demanded for itself. Important point, money is demanded here for itself, for the future purpose. Now, Cambridge equation is stated as MD is equal to KPY, where MD is demand for money, PY is nothing but nominal income, which you need to remember, and K is nothing but the proportion. That's it, and it will be done. I hope you are very clear in the second theory. The third theory, students, it is going to be very important, and that is Keynesian approach to demand for money, which is also called as liquidity preference theory by J.M. Keynes. So now, according to Professor J.M. Keynes, liquidity preference approach, also known as Keynesian theory of demand for money, was given by Professor J.M. Keynes in the year 1936 in his book General Theory on Income, Employment and Money. Now, according to Professor Keynes, liquidity preference, that is LR, is dependent upon three motives. On how many motives, students? Three motives. Which are that three motives? Let's understand one by one. First one, it is called as transaction motive. Second one is called as precautionary motive. Third and last one is called as speculative motive. These are the three motives. Transaction motive. If you want to do more number of transactions, you will require higher liquidity preference. Less number of transaction means lesser liquidity preference. However, the amount of liquidity preference will be proportion of your income. LR is liquidity preference. KY is proportion of income. So this is how transaction motive would be. Second case, students, it is precautionary motive. Now when I say precautionary motive, if I take more precautions, more and more precautions are being taken, that means the person is pessimistic, will hold more liquid cash. A person who is highly optimistic, lesser precaution taken, that means lesser will be the liquidity ratio. Direct relationship. Speculative motive. Now let's understand speculative motive here. When we talk about speculation, we are going to consider bond here. So one thing we have is bond value. Then we will be having interest rate on bond, investment, and finally it will be liquidity ratio or liquidity preference. Bond value. If you see, the bond value is very high in the market. See, bond value and interest rate which is offered on bond on the market price are inversely proportionate to each other. Bond value rises, interest rate will fall. Bond value falls, interest rate will rise. So bond value rises, lesser interest rate is offered on the bonds. Will you be interested in investing? You will liquidate your investment if it is already reached the peak. So there is no scope of capital appreciation, no scope of higher interest rate offering. Why would you stay invested in such case? You will withdraw your investment and you will convert your bonds into liquid asset, that is money. So liquidity preference would increase. Simple. Now, if bond value is less, interest rate will be high, you will be getting an advantage of dual opportunity. Number one, capital appreciation of bonds. Number two, higher interest rate which is offered. In both the cases, it is a win-win situation. Your investment will increase, liquidity preference will be low. The interest rate which is offered on the market value, it is called as current interest rate. And the interest rate which is there on the face value of the bonds, which remains fixed, it is called as critical rate of interest. So let's say bond issued at 1000 rupees has interest rate of 10%, simple transaction. So this 10% on this 1000, that is 100 rupees, is nothing but critical rate of interest. Understood? But if the bond value, the market value becomes 2000 rupees, what will happen to the interest rate now? You will be getting 100 rupees interest rate only, but 100 rupees on 2000, that means it is 5%. This 5% is current interest rate. Now you only tell me, the bond which was worth 1000 rupees, now it is available at 2000. Will people invest? No. So at that time, the liquidity preference will increase. So you need to remember one thing, friends. Whenever current interest rate is greater than critical rate of interest or critical interest rate, only at that time investment will increase and liquidity preference will come down. Similarly, in the above scenario, where our critical interest rate is less than the critical interest rate is more than current interest rate. Critical interest rate is 10%, current interest rate is only 5%. So in this case, investment will be less and liquidity preference will increase. So this is how, friends, bond mechanism work in speculative motive. Now the same thing can be shown in diagram also. Two diagrams we need to draw here. First one will represent the individual speculative demand for money. Another one would represent aggregate speculative demand for money. First part. Individual speculative demand for money. Now, in this case, you are having two parts. This is our first part. This is not y-axis and x-axis. Please do not misunderstand this diagram, okay? Let's suppose on this vertical curve, this is our critical rate of interest which is offered. And depending upon the critical rate of interest, this was our liquidity preference. So if I say liquidity preference is how much? Liquidity preference is this much, let's say. Okay, so this is my liquidity preference. Now what happens is, if let's suppose current interest rate is less than the critical interest rate, so let's suppose this is our current interest rate, so the new liquidity preference, can I say it will increase? Isn't it so? Similarly, if let's say it is same as critical interest rate, both are 10% only, then liquidity preference remains the same. But if current interest rate is more than critical rate of interest, then the same liquidity preference will come down, and this will be our new liquidity preference. This blue part will vanish from here. Are you very clear in this? So this is how in individual sense speculative demand for money operates. The similar thing for aggregate speculative demand for money. Let's have a look at it. So in aggregate speculative demand for money, we are having now two axes. So this is our y-axis, 0, x-axis. On y-axis, we are having rate of interest. On x-axis, it will be liquidity preference. See this carefully. If let's say rate of interest is high, liquidity preference will be low because we will be interested in investing. So at that time, friends, this will be our point of rate of interest, that is R, and liquidity preference, that is L. Let me name this as R1, L1. If liquidity preference has to show the change, then rate of interest has to change. Rate of interest falls from R1 to R2. Now as per the new rate of interest, liquidity preference will rise. This will become L2. But rate of interest falls very low. Let's suppose R3. At R3, let's suppose it is only 1.5% interest rate which is offered. Will you be interested in investing? Obviously no. So at that time, if you are not investing, that means what you are doing with that money, you are keeping it in liquid assets. So this will be your liquidity preference. So if you observe here, the liquidity has increased to a very greater extent. That means the entire society will not be interested in investing, rather they will keep the money in liquid form only. So when the society holds money in liquid form, that means it has entered into a position which is called as liquidity trap. So this liquidity preference curve represents liquidity trap when people stop investing in bonds and convert their entire bond amount into cash balances. That's liquidity trap. I hope friends you are very clear in all the three mechanisms here. Very important. This is our liquidity preference approach. We understood transaction, precautionary and speculative motive. Let's have a look at the theoretical version of the same. So this theory was given by J.M. Keynes in his book General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. Now, according to J.M. Keynes, transaction motive comprises of both the motives, that is income motive as well as business motive. Then number of transaction will determine the level of the level of liquidity preference. Next, it is precautionary motive. If a person wants to have, or person has a higher level of uncertainty or precaution, that means the person will hold more cash. Right? Uncertainty is an important element in Keynesian theory. Please underline this, very important part. Look at this. If it is income elastic, then what will happen? With the increase in level of income, people will tend to take more precaution, so the curve will be upward sloping. Similarly, transaction motive and precautionary motive combined, if let's suppose these motives are not influenced by rate of interest, see, speculative motive is influenced by rate of interest, but let's suppose if these two are interest inelastic, inelastic means doesn't change with the interest rate, so let it be higher interest rate or lower interest rate, this is interest inelastic, so it remains constant. So here liquidity preference will remain constant, it will look like a perfectly inelastic demand curve. However, if let's suppose when we talk about speculation motive, so in speculation motive, if the rate of interest goes on decreasing, the liquidity preference will go on increasing, and then our economy will enter into a trap which is called as liquidity trap. So demand for money for speculative motive is related to what? Store of value function of money. Speculative demand is also known as asset demand for money. People have alternatives to either hold cash or financial assets. It also relates to the uncertainty level. Cash held under this motive is used to make speculative gain by dealing on bonds whose price fluctuate. And then this part can be written in your own words when we will be interested in investing more or less. Friends, the last part in this, what do you mean by liquidity trap as shown in the diagram? So liquidity trap is defined as set of points on liquidity preference schedule when the percentage change in demand for money in response to percentage change in interest is infinite. That means now at that interest rate we will not be interested in investing, we will withdraw our money. If we withdraw our money, that means what? It will be perfectly elastic. The inverse relationship between the rate of interest and demand for money transform into this type of relationship. At a very low rate of interest, speculative demand for money becomes perfectly elastic. This is what you have to write and explain the diagram. That is it. That completes our entire pre-Keynesian theory. Now, the post-Keynesian theory. Theory number 4. See this very carefully. List out the factors that determine demand for money in Baumol-Tobin analysis of transaction demand for money. Now this theory was given by Baumol and Tobin. It is called as inventory approach or also called as inventory theoretic approach. Now, what does it say? How does a change in each affect the quantity of money demanded? Alright. So Baumol and Tobin developed a deterministic theory of transaction demand, which is also known as inventory theoretic approach or real cash balance approach. Now, what does inventory model assume? It says that if you want to hold money, you will hold either in the liquid form, that is money itself, or you will invest in interest bearing financial asset. But it won't be like you are investing today and then you forget it. No. This will be simultaneous investment and withdrawal. Investment and withdrawal. So you will invest, and let's suppose if you are getting better returns, then you will withdraw your amount. and then again you will invest. So people keep on shifting between point number 1 and point number 2, that is money and interest bearing financial asset. Listen to this very carefully. One thing which people forget while understanding this is transaction cost. Sir, what are you saying? I will explain you, don't worry. See, if I tell you there is an investment opportunity, okay, you buy bonds worth 1000 rupees. There is going to be a capital appreciation of 20 rupees in next 2 days. So go ahead and buy it. Will you buy? Yes, of course. So how much you buy? Let's suppose you will buy 100 quantities. So total amount, how much did you pay? It is 1 lakh rupee. And how much you are getting in return? 1 lakh 2000. You would be celebrating that 2000 rupee is nothing but profit. But on the flip side, one important thing that you forgot to calculate, that is transaction cost. Sir, what is transaction cost? It can be taxes, commission, brokerage. Now, 1 lakh rupee, let's suppose the transaction cost is only 2%. So 2% on 1 lakh, it is 2000. 2% on 1 lakh 2000, it will be 2040. Total transaction cost is 4040, which means you thought it is profit, but actually it is 2040 worth of loss. So should you be investing? The answer is no. That is what I am saying. If transaction cost is greater than rewards, you should not invest. Your investment will be low and you will convert your investments into cash. That means demand for money will increase. Similarly, if let's suppose transaction cost is low and rewards are more, rewards means returns are more, so at that time you will happily invest more and your demand for money will be low. This is what Baumol and Tobin have said in their theory. Let's have a look at it. There is a fixed cost of making transfer between money and alternative financial asset. This is nothing but transaction cost. Now, example can be brokerage charges. While relatively liquid financial assets other than money offer a positive return, the above said transaction cost of going between money and these assets justifies holding money. Baumol used business inventory approach. Here inventory means cash, liquid cash, to analyze this behavior of individual. Just as businesses keep money to facilitate their business transaction, people also hold cash balance, which involves an opportunity cost in the terms of lost interest. Therefore, they hold an optimum level of combination of bonds as well as cash balance. That is an amount that minimizes the opportunity cost. Now see this very carefully. Excess cash over and above what is required for transaction during the period will be considered for investment and put in interest bearing account. Money holding on an average will be lower if people hold on bonds on the interest yielding asset. This is quite simple. If you are investing in bonds, liquid cash that you have will be less. Higher the income, higher is the average level of inventory or money holdings. That means rich people will have more of money holding. The level of money holding also depends upon the carrying cost. Very important. That is nothing but interest foregone. Now, we need to take care of transaction cost before finalizing whether we want to hold cash or whether we want to invest. The inventory theoretic approach also suggests that demand for money and bonds depends on cost of making a transfer between money and bonds. Example, the brokerage fee. An increase in the brokerage fee results into increase in marginal cost of bonds for market transactions. demand for money and lowers the average bond holding. That means the bond holding will reduce and cash balance will increase. This is what this theory has to say. You are free to write the theory in your own words, students, though I have marked some important points which will help you in remembering this theory. Let's go ahead to the next theory, fifth theory, students. It is called as Friedman's restatement of quantity theory. Now this theory was given by whom? So it was given by Professor Milton Friedman in the year 1956. His theory is called as speculative money demand, and it is based on the Keynes theory, especially the speculative motive. So Milton Friedman extended Keynes' speculative money demand within the framework of asset price theory. Friedman's treat that the demand for money is nothing more than the application of a more general theory of demand for capital asset. Now the important part starts. Demand for money is affected by same factors as demand for any other asset. First one, it is permanent income. Another one is relative returns on assets. Now, what did Milton Friedman say? Don't focus on current income, focus on the permanent income. What is permanent income, students? Permanent income is nothing but present value of all future income that you are going to get. So according to Professor Milton Friedman, just don't focus on the current income that you are getting. Focus on the longer run income that you are going to get. Find out its present value and accordingly divert or accordingly hold your liquid asset, that is cash balance. Second thing is relative return on asset, which incorporate what? Which involves risk. Now, Friedman maintains it's permanent income and not current income that determines the demand for money. Permanent income, which is Friedman's measure of wealth, is the present expected value of all the future income. To Friedman, money is a good as any other durable consumption good, and its demand is a function of a great number of factors. Now, when I say money is just like any other asset and it is influenced by great number of factors, so what are they? Let's have a look at it. First one, it is a function of total wealth. That means if your wealth is more. Now, how does Milton Friedman define wealth, students? That you need to understand. When we are talking about wealth, he has divided this into 5 asset class. 5 asset class would be money, bond, equity, physical capital, and human capital. So if you are having all these 5 asset class, that means your wealth is high. So higher level of wealth, that means higher level of liquidity preference and vice versa. I will just write it here. If the wealth increases, the demand for money will also increase and vice versa. Next one, it is price level. Price level also determines the level of demand for money. Now price level increases, of course the demand for money will be high and vice versa. Next one is the opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is nothing but the interest. So if let's suppose you are having better opportunity to invest, then you will invest more and your demand for money will decline and vice versa. So there is inverse relationship in this case. And last one, students, it is inflation. Inflation. Now what is inflation here? If let's suppose inflation is very high, it will reduce the value of money. So what will happen? We will have to have a higher level of cash balance if you want to purchase goods and services. So this is how the 4 points will determine the level of demand for money. I hope you are very clear in this part, friends. Let's have a look at the last theory in unit number 1. That is risk or liquidity preference as behavior towards risk theory. which was given by Professor Tobin. Sir, we have heard this name. Yes. This theory was given by Baumol and Tobin as well. Baumol and Tobin gave one duet performance. That was fourth theory. And this is solo performance of Tobin. So what is the question? Risk avoiding behavior of individual provided the foundation for the liquidity preference and for a negative relationship between demand for money and interest rate. Explain with examples. So this theory was given by Tobin. He established the relationship of risk avoiding behavior of individuals. Basically, students, he has focused or emphasized on what, he has emphasized mainly on creating a portfolio for your money. Look at this. It provided the foundation of liquidity preference and for a negative relationship between demand for money and the interest rate. The optimal portfolio structure, that means you will be creating a portfolio for your investments, will be determined by two things. First one is risk reward characteristics, the other one is taste of the individual in maximizing his utility consistent with the existing opportunity. See, understand. First one is risk and reward, that will determine the level of holding that you will take. For example, if a person is willing to take a higher risk, if a person is willing to take a higher risk, right, he or she understands that the rewards will be greater. Yes or no? This is risk reward relationship. Lower risk, no problem, money will be safe, but rewards also will be safe. I mean, rewards will be less. Now it depends upon people's appetite to take the risk and invest. Now, if the risk is high, but still people are willing to take that higher risk for higher rewards, at that time demand for money will be low. Yes or no? Similarly, if let's say people are not willing to take that level of risk, then what will happen? The level of demand for money will be low. Now, in this theory, which analyzes individual portfolio allocation between two things, money and the bond holdings. Money is considered as what? Money is considered as store of wealth. Tobin hypothesized that an individual would hold a portion of his wealth in the form of money in the portfolio because the rate of return of holding money was more certain than the rate of return on holding interest earning assets. What do you mean by this? See, when you are investing in returns based on interest or fluctuations in the market, right, there might be negative returns also. In case of money, you will be getting zero returns, but that is certain. Zero returns are certain. Zero is still better than the negative returns. So not Baumol, but in this case, Tobin was of an opinion that even though it is not earning any surplus or anything extra returns, but zero returns is certain, no? So still some part of it will be kept as liquid cash in the entire portfolio. It is riskier to hold alternative assets vis-a-vis holding interest, just money alone, because government bonds and equity are subject to price volatility while money is not. Rational behavior of risk-averse individuals induces him to hold an optimally structured wealth portfolio which is comprised of both money as well as bond. The overall expected return on the portfolio would be higher if portfolio were all bonds. But an investor who is afraid of taking risk will never invest in this kind of portfolio. But a person who is willing to take more risk will invest everything into bonds. That is what it says. So where all the bonds, but an investor who is risk averse will be willing to exercise a trade-off and sacrifice to some extent the higher return for a reduction in risk. Tobin's theory implies that the amount of money, please mark this, very important, amount of money held as asset depends on the level of interest rate. Increase in interest rate will improve the terms on which the expected returns on the portfolio can be increased by accepting greater risk. In respect to that or in response to that, increase in interest rate, individual will increase the proportion of wealth held in the interest bearing assets, say bonds, and will decrease the holding of money, and the same will happen vice versa. So it implies that demand for money as a store of wealth depends negatively on the interest rate. I hope friends you are very clear in the entire unit number 1. Next part students that we are going to understand will be unit number 2, concept of money supply. Alright, so unit number 2 friends, what's the name of this unit? It is nothing but concept of money supply. Now this word money supply in itself is so giant that it is quite confusing many a times. But in simple words, please remember money supply is nothing but what? It is the total money available in the economy. So whatever money is flowing in the economy, it is called as money supply. Now when we talk about money supply, this unit particularly, we are going to understand 3 different parts. Very interesting parts friends. First one will be meaning of money supply. Then it will be rationale of money supply. Why do we need a money supply? Then it is measurement of money supply. And finally it will be money multiplier. Now money multiplier looks like a very small concept here, but let me tell you that's the main part of this entire unit. And one more thing students, please remember this measurement is very important because many a times many questions have come from measurement of money supply. Now first of all, meaning of money supply. What is meaning of money supply? Total money available with the public in an economy at a given point of time, it is called as money supply. The question here is, do we need to measure money supply? Yes. Why sir? See, there is a comparison between two things. First one, it is money supply. The other one would be goods and services, isn't it? Now, listen to this very carefully. Hypothetically, if let's suppose money supply availability is 100 rupees and goods and services available worth are 100. See, if there is a small difference between money and goods and services, hardly it will make any difference in the economy. However, this is the most optimal structure because we are having equilibrium, isn't it? Now think about this. If money supply is 120 and goods and services available worth are only 100, so there means there is more of money supply as compared to goods and services, more money chasing few goods. This will result into inflation. Is inflation a desirable section or desirable part of the economy? The answer is no. That's why RBI will intervene here and will try to control the level of money supply by various measures and tools. Similarly friends, if let's suppose the money supply available worth is only 80 rupees, whereas goods and services available worth are 100. That means now there is less of money supply and more of goods and services. That means sellers will try very hard but people are not having money. So what will happen? There will be a recession in the economy. So in our economy students, neither inflation is important nor a recession is important. So what do we need to do? So RBI will intervene and will try to make our economy in such a manner that the money supply reaches the equilibrium level. So is it important? Yes sir, very important. How it helps RBI? Let's talk about the rationale. There are 2 points. Number 1, it helps us in understanding the monetary developments. From where we are getting money, how much we are getting money, right? And from which sector, how much contribution is there to the economy. All these things students, it is nothing but monetary development. Second one, it also helps us in creating framework for monetary policy. I repeat, it helps us in creating framework for monetary policy. Because see, it's simple. If money supply is greater than the goods and services or less than the goods and services, at that time RBI will have to intervene and change the monetary policy. So to understand where the money is coming from, it is monetary development. And to make a necessary policy in order to rectify the mistake, that will be called as framework for monetary policy. These are the 2 points students that you need to remember in rationale. Now coming on to the next part, it is nothing but measurement of money supply. Well, measurement of money supply, RBI started measuring money supply since 1935. Okay, please remember which year? 1935. But up to 1977, they were measuring only narrow money. When I say narrow money, there is something called as M1. See, monetary aggregates, that is our measurement of money supply, will be divided into three parts. First one is called as monetary aggregates. Second one is called as new monetary aggregates. And third and last one will be called as liquidity aggregates. So monetary, new monetary and liquidity aggregates. Now, when I talk about these three factors, remember one thing very nicely. Under monetary aggregates, there is something called as M1, yes or no, you know this. Now, M1 is nothing but narrow money, and rest of them can be called as broad money, let's suppose M4. However, students, till 1977, we were having only one measurement of calculation, and that is nothing but monetary aggregate. Well, after that, students, we changed it, and we started calculating along with narrow money the broad money as well. Then later on in 1998, we felt like that there are many things which we are not covering under monetary aggregates. So that was the time when RBI reworked on the situation, and based on the working committee group suggestions, we have made the changes and introduced new monetary aggregates as well as liquidity aggregates. So overall, if I want to mention, if you remember, M1, M2, M3, M4, there are four parts in monetary aggregates. New monetary aggregates will be having three parts, NM1, NM2, NM3. And liquidity aggregates also will be having three things, that is L1, L2 and L3. So first one is monetary aggregate, next one is new monetary, last one is liquidity aggregates. Come on, come on, you know this, yes? Alright, fantastic. So what is there in M1, M2, M3, M4, NM1, NM2, NM3, L1, L2, L3? This you need to by heart. Apart from that, students, we are having a concept which is called as money multiplier. Now, what is exactly money multiplier? The number of times money gets rotated, circulated in the market, because of which the money supply goes on increasing, it will be called as money supply or money multiplier. Now, when we are talking about money multiplier, students, it is to be understood that we need to understand something called as sources of money supply and determinants of money supply. Now, sources and determinants, you would say, sir, it is one and the same. I understand that. Sources of money supply, where do you get money from? So, first one, you can get it from RBI. Now, when I say RBI, I am talking only from India's perspective, right? So, we can write it as RBI or we can write it as central bank, no problem. Now, the money which is printed by RBI, friends, it is nothing but high-powered money. High-powered money. Now, when I say high-powered money, it is also called as the primary source of money supply. Primary source of money supply. Now, when I say primary source of money supply, that means what? That means it is the main money source after which the money can be multiplied in many ways. Similarly, what is the second one? It is nothing but commercial banking system. These commercial banks, I must tell you, students, are very smart. The way they rotate the money and make more and more money for themselves, it's just amazing. I'm a big fan of commercial banking system, So commercial banking system, what do? They print high powered money? Absolutely not. They don't have authority to do that. Now, one more thing, friends, when they are issuing these people, RBI, when they are issuing high powered money, how do they do that? So they follow a system which is called as minimum reserve system. I'm sure you know this. Now, what do you mean by minimum reserve system? Against the minimum reserves of gold and foreign currency reserves, we will be printing our currency note. Commercial bank doesn't have authority to do that. So how is commercial bank going to create more and more money? So they are doing it from credit money, which is also called as the credit creation process, right? So credit money, that means they go on creating more and more credit from the same amount, and that is how the money gets multiplier. Here, credit money which is given by the commercial banking system, of course, it will not be called as primary source. This is a secondary source of money supply which helps us in rotating more money in the market. However, there are determinants also. Now, when I say determinants, there are two determinants. Money supply will be affecting or getting affected exogenously, or it will be affected endogenously. Now, what do you mean by endogenous and what do you mean by exogenous? So, exogenous are nothing but external factors. I repeat, these are external factors, and endogenous will be internal factor. Now, when I say external factor, so there can be anything, there can be tourists who are bringing money, there can be investors, there can be multinational corporations, there can be government, right? But you need to understand the entry point, the check-in point will be RBI only, because they will be the one who will be getting it converted into Indian rupees, isn't it? So rather than writing down 1,000 different things under exogenous, we just write one thing, and that is RBI. When I say internal, so internal, it is people like you and me who try to, trade, transact, and that is how the money flows. So but that flows via banks, so I would say that is banking system. So if you look at the determinants, students, determinants and sources would more or less look exactly same, right? So determinants of money supply, it can be exogenous or it can be endogenous. Let's go ahead. Now friends, when I talk about money multiplier, what is money multiplier? The number of times your money gets converted into money supply. Number of times the money which is there in the economy gets converted into money supply. Sir, is it different? Yes, absolutely it is different. See, let's suppose if I am having 1,000 rupees, I deposit to the bank. Now bank will take that, give it out to loan to someone else. Now that someone else will spend somewhere, again that money will float into the banks, again money will be given as loan, and it happens, if this happens for 5 times, what is the total money which is created in the market? This is nothing but 5,000 rupees. So here 1,000 rupees was multiplied into 5 times, and we have money supply of 5,000 rupees. Mind well friends, 5,000 rupees here is nothing but money supply. What is this? This is money supply. Okay, money supply in the economy. What's this 1,000 rupees? This is nothing but high powered money or monetary base. Come on, you know this already, yes or no? High powered money, or it is also called as monetary base. And what is this 5? This is nothing but money multiplier. So when I am talking about money multiplier, let me name this as small m. High powered money will be written as MB, and let me write down as capital M for money supply. So if I want to calculate a small m, that is multiplier, how would I get that? So that will be money supply divided by MB. So that's the formula for our what? Money multiplier. Now, because of this money multiplier, the money gets supplied more or supplied less. But that depends on the behavior of three parties. Who are the three parties? Come on, keep revising. What are the three parties? First one is behavior of central bank, also called as the stock of high powered money. So behavior of central bank. Second one would be behavior of commercial bank, and third one and last one will be behavior of what? Behavior of public. Hey, come on, you need to know this. Come on, what are the three behaviors which will influence the level of money supply? First one will be behavior of central bank, behavior of commercial bank, and behavior of public. Now when I say behavior of central bank, listen to this very carefully. So behavior of central bank, how will central bank influence the level of money supply in the economy? Any idea? I'll tell you. When central bank is having the authority of printing high powered money, so when I say if RBI is printing more and more high powered money, what will be the money supply? You would say, sir, even a kid can say this. Of course, I agree to that. If more and more money is printed, that means the money supply will increase. Similarly, if less money is there, that means the money supply will be less. But hold on to that thought. While you are saying that there is a direct relationship between high powered money and money supply, you are making a very big assumption. And what is that assumption? The assumption is that behavior of public and behavior of commercial bank should remain the same. That means they will keep on rotating the money. Even if there is additional money which is printed by RBI and coming into the economy, they will be more than happy to circulate it in the market. So only when the behavior of central bank is increasing the high powered money, increases the money supply, only this happens when this will happen when this will happen when the behavior of commercial bank and behavior of public will remain constant. Okay, remember this. Second one, behavior of commercial bank. Now commercial bank, students, is highly regulated part, and it is regulated by RBI. So RBI will ask all the banks to keep something called as CRR, SLR, and let's call that as required reserve ratio. What is that? Required reserve ratio. Now when I talk about required reserve ratio, let's suppose CRR is 5%, SLR is 15%. So required reserve ratio is 20%. What does this 20% means? It means out of every rupee that you get as deposit, 20% you have to keep aside as reserves. 5% is CRR, so you need to give that to the RBI. 15% is SLR, so you need to keep it with yourself. So 20% is required reserve ratio. Now, but let me tell you one more fact, friends. Actual reserve ratio will be different than required reserve ratio. And why is that so, sir? I will tell you. Actual reserve ratio, see, it cannot be less than required reserve ratio. Do you agree to this? Now, if RBI tells you that you have to keep 20%, but you are the bank managing director and you say, hey, what RBI, you will teach me or what? Get lost. And by doing that, how much you charge? How much do you keep as reserves? You say, I will keep only 2%. I don't care about RBI. Who are you to tell me? All right. So RBI will do nothing to you, but don't worry about it. It will just change your address. Okay. So your residential address would change. Okay. And it will be changed from your wherever you are living to directly one private place. You will be getting students with all the facilities, 2 time, you get proper eating, you get healthy exercises, you get proper massage with a stick, bamboo stick, and all these things will be done at your new home, which is called as jail. Yeah, that's the only punishment. Okay, so you cannot afford to keep actual reserve ratio less than the required reserve ratio, or else RBI is having a very nice treatment. All right, so required reserve ratio, acha, can it be equal to 20%? The answer is yes. Can it be equal to 20%? Yes. But there is no bank in the world who will keep actually the same reserve, because if there is a withdrawal, automatically your reserves will fall down. So ultimately what will happen? You will keep some additional reserves. So let's suppose actual reserve ratio is 25%. Are you getting this? So required reserve ratio is 20%, actual reserve ratio is 5%. How much is the extra reserve ratio? So excess reserve ratio is nothing but 5%. Now, what is this excess reserve ratio? Actual reserve ratio minus required reserve ratio. Now, think about this, students. How multiplier will be affected? Let's suppose RRR, required reserve ratio. Please remember this, okay? I need not write the entire full form again and again. Required reserve ratio, students. Required reserve ratio, if let's suppose it is very high, if RBI keeps you to hold more money in the reserves, what will happen to the money supply? It will collapse. I mean, it will be less. And similarly vice versa, inverse relationship. Come on, you know this. And similarly excess reserve ratio, if you go on keeping more and more excess reserve ratio, wow, so if you are keeping more and more excess reserve ratio, that means your money supply will fall. So any kind of reserves, basically, any kind of reserves that you will keep aside, of course it is going to impact the money supply, and lesser the expected, or the excess reserve ratio, the money supply will increase. So again, there is inverse relationship. Now that's very simple, but there are few things which influence the level of excess reserve ratio also, right? So for example, it is first one, opportunity cost. Now what do you mean by opportunity cost? If there is better opportunity in the market, in order to give loans, you will be getting a higher rate of interest. Hey, why would you keep money in the reserves? Huh? So you will, at that time, if there is better opportunity cost, your excess reserve ratio will come down. And if there is no opportunity cost, people are running away, turning into bad debts, right? Non-performing assets. People take the money and then fly in the some other country and sit there and watch, matches, and our country is not able to do anything. If this is the thing that is happening, if everyone starts doing that, then RBI or government, or in fact commercial bank the most, will be feeling helpless. So at that time they were not interested in investing. So excess reserve ratio will be high at that time. So which relationship, by the way? Inverse relationship. Fantastic. Second one, students, what will now influence excess reserve ratio? So there is one more thing which will influence the level of excess reserve ratio, and that is, come on, what is that? That is nothing but expected deposit outflow. What is that? Expected deposit outflow. Now India is a country of festival, right? So we are having Diwali, we are having Eid, we are having Christmas, we are having Holi, Ganesh Chaturthi, and so many different things. So whenever there is festival, there is excitement. There are people who go and withdraw more and more cash from the market, right? So they withdraw cash. So expected deposit outflow is very high from the banks. So at that time, you need to maintain a higher level of reserves, right? If they come and ask for money, their own money, okay, and you say, sorry bro, I gave it out loan, I don't have it, bro, they will start pelting stones directly, not on the glass, on your head. Okay, so don't do that. So expected deposit outflow, if it is more, then excess reserve ratio will be high, and vice versa. If people are not taking any kind of loans, because it is, let's suppose they are mourning something, so at that time people don't withdraw more cash. So at that time the excess reserve ratio can be low, and you can use that money to give out as loan to the investors, and there will be direct relationship. So I hope you are very clear in this. That's a simple thing. So that is our behavior of commercial bank. Yeah. Next one and last one, students, it is nothing but behavior of public. Behavior of public. Now when I say behavior of public, mind well, when I say behavior of public, how will public behave? So here it is currency to deposit ratio. What did I just say? Currency to deposit ratio. Let's suppose if people wish to hold more cash means more of currency and less of deposit. See, listen to this very carefully. More of currency and less of deposit, right? That means more money is there in the hands of the people and less money is given in the banks. So less money in the bank, so bank will not be having money, so bank will reduce the money supply or they will not have money supply. So money supply will be less in this case. Similarly, if let's suppose people don't believe in keeping currency in their hands, currency means liquid cash, they don't believe in keeping that. So what will happen? They will deposit more. If they deposit more, the money supply will be rotating more in the market because banks will be giving out more and more credit money. Okay, so that is currency to deposit ratio. But there is one more ratio, students, and that is nothing but TDDD ratio. Now, what do you mean by TDDD ratio? TDDD means time deposit and demand deposit ratio. Now, see, time deposit, if it is more and demand deposit is a less, right? You consider any bank branch near your locality. If let's suppose they are having more time deposit as compared to demand deposit. What do you mean by time deposit? Fixed deposit and recurring deposit. What do you mean by demand deposit? It is nothing but saving account and current account. So, if there is more of fixed deposit and recurring deposit as compared to saving and current account, that means the money is coming to the bank in big amount and that is going to retain for longer period of time. So at that time they can give more loans, money supply can be increased. Similarly, friends, if let's suppose there is less of time deposit and more of demand deposit, see, if more money is there in the current and saving account, you cannot use that to give out as loan. Why? People go for shopping, they do GPay. People go for doing something, they just swipe their card. So you know this, right? So at that time money supply will be less. I hope you are very clear in behavior of public. Now tell me one more thing, students. What will be the effect of government expenditure? I repeat, what will be the effect of government expenditure on money supply? So government expenditure, if let's suppose government expenditure is very high, hey, come on, be quick. Government expenditure is what? It is very high. Government expenditure is very high, very high, very high. So what will happen? They will have to take more and more loans. Now the loans which are taken by the government, it will be nothing but, let's suppose, ways and means advances, right? So ways and means advances is just like overdraft facility which is available to the current account holders. Similarly, they are also getting loans, so I will write their loans, right? So more and more government expenditure, so government is going on doing more expenditure, they will need money for that, so they need money, so they will be taking more loans. If more and more loans are taken, more and more and more loans are taken, so they will be spending more, money supply will increase, right? So effect of government expenditure, it will increase the level of money supply. I hope guys you are very clear in this part. That completes our revision of unit number 2. Now let's have a look at the unit 2, the book part, what is given. We will mark the important points so that you remember. By the way, what are the things that we have understood? We understood the meaning of money supply, sources of money supply, we understood determinants of money supply, we understood then behavior of commercial bank, central bank, public, and that is nothing but money multiplier process, and towards the end it was effect of government expenditure on money supply. Hopefully students you have understood everything. Now let's look at this part. Describe the different determinants of money supply in the country. So there is determination according to the first view. Money supply is determined exogenously by the central bank, and the other view says money supply is determined endogenously. Come on, you know this, yes, no? Yes. The current practice is to explain the determinants of money supply on the basis of what? On the basis of money multiplier approach, which focuses on the relationship between money stock and money supply in terms of the monetary base or high powered money. Of course, you know this, right? High powered money, the number of times it gets rotated into the market, it will be called as money supply. This approach holds that the total supply of nominal money in the economy is determined by the joint behavior of the central bank, commercial bank, and the public. That is it. In this answer, this much only you have to write. This is additional information that we have added here, just in case if you want to revise, you need to know that this is again repeated after the money multiplier concept. Yes or no? So right now I'll put this on hold. If you understand only the highlighted part, that is more than sufficient. This thing is going to be repeated again. So let's keep this for now. Now, what are the monetary aggregates? Do you remember there has been divided into 3 parts? What are the 3 parts, friends? Come on. First one is nothing but monetary aggregates, next one is new monetary aggregates, and last one is liquidity aggregates. Now, when I say monetary aggregates, my dear friends, when I say monetary aggregates, there are 4 parts: M1, M2, M3, M4. Now, what do we have in M1? First of all, in M1, the first thing that we are having, currency and coins with the public. That is nothing but currency. So currency notes and currency coins with the public, plus demand deposits of banks. Demand deposits of banks means saving account and current account deposit. And then we have other deposits of the RBI or with the RBI. Now other deposits means banks are keeping money with the RBI, government is keeping money with the RBI. All that money will be part of M1. Next one, what is M2? M2 will be M1 plus saving deposit with the post office saving bank. So along with M1, whatever is the money which we are keeping at the post offices, but only in the savings account of post offices, it will be part of M2. Then comes M3. Now what is M3? It is nothing but M1 plus net time deposit of the banks. Time deposit here means fixed deposit and recurring deposit. M4 students, it is nothing but M3 plus total deposit with the post office savings organization or savings bank. Total deposit means it includes the the saving deposit which is there in the M2 as well as the long term deposits. However, we exclude here one thing, and that is national saving certificate. Students, I have seen many people who forget to write this excluding national saving certificate, and then you lose mark. Don't do that. There can be numerical question also, students, where they will ask you to calculate M1, M2, M3, M4. In fact, students, just check out July 2021 paper. In that also we are having one question where they have asked us to calculate M3. Very basic, very easy, worth 3 marks. So this is a easy catch, in the marks section we can easily get maximum marks here. So that was about the monetary aggregates which I told you about 1977, and that's fine. About the new monetary aggregates which was developed from 1998. Now here we are having NM1, NM2 and NM3. First one, in NM1, students, you are having currency with the public, demand deposits with the bank and other deposits with RBI. So they have reduced our headache by 1 point at least. They are giving us the same point to by heart which we have already studied in M1. So M1 and NM1 was kept constant, they have not changed it. NM2, students, generally we have NM2 as the new classification, but we have included here old classification also, because just in case if they are given additional knowledge, you need to know about it, right? What is the new classification? So that will be NM1 will be included, plus we are having short term time deposits of the residents. I repeat, we are having short term time deposits of the residents. Short term means less than 1 year, and residents means only people who are considered as Indians. NRIs also do deposit, foreigners also deposit the money in India, but their money will not be included in NM2. So that is the new one, but we are also having the older version here. NM1 is NM2 is nothing but NM1 plus time liabilities portion of saving deposit, certificate of deposit, term deposit maturating within 1 year, and FCNR deposits. So all these things are there, but however you need to remember the only new one. NM3 is nothing but NM2 plus long term time deposits of residents plus call or term funding from the financial institutions. Hey, what is long term deposits? Long term time deposits can be of the residents, it can be more than 1 year, and call or term funding, it is nothing but the bank to bank transactions which are happening, that will be called as call or term funding. We are also having, apart from liquidity aggregate, something called as reserve money. We will come on to that later. First, look at the liquidity aggregates. First one is NM3. Now what is NM3? All deposits. Oh, we are having L1. L1 is nothing but NM3 plus all the deposits of post office savings bank. Now all the deposits of, that is total deposits, okay, total deposits of, including savings as well as long term. So one more thing here, again, national savings certificate will be excluded. Apart from that, we are having L2. What is L2? It is nothing but L1 plus term deposits with term lending institutions and refinancing institutions. Remember term deposits, then it will be term borrowings and certificate of deposit. So there are three things, my dear friends. What are the three things? Term deposits, term borrowings, certificate of deposits by refinancing institutions or lending institutions, which are also called as FIs. And L3 is nothing but L2 plus public deposits of non-banking financial companies. See, it is very simple. When you are keeping it with banks, it is called as fixed deposit. When you are keeping it with NBFCs, it is called as public deposit. Similarly, if you are keeping it with financial institutions or non-banking, term lending institutions and refinancing institutions, if you are keeping money with them, it will be called as certificate of deposits. Now, RM, that is nothing but reserve money, also called as high powered money, also called as monetary base, or also called as M0. Okay, now what is RM? Currency in circulation, whatever money is there. So high powered money will be that. Bankers deposit with the RBI plus other deposits with the RBI. These three things, students, and the things will be taken care of. However, if you want to take it ahead, then it can also be net RBI credit to the government as well as credit to the commercial sector, which will be the currency in circulation. RBI's claims on the banks and RBI's net foreign assets, that will be nothing but the bankers' deposit with the RBI. And lastly, other deposits with RBI will be government's currency liabilities to the public minus the RBI's non-monetary liabilities, which will be part of other deposits with RBI. So it is just an expanded version of the same formula. Explain the concept of money multiplier. Now money multiplier is nothing but M is equal to M into MB. Now here M stands for what? This capital M is nothing but money supply, as you all are aware. M is nothing but money multiplier, small one. MB is nothing but monetary base. Hello, correct? No? Okay. Now this is the formula for money multiplier, which you are already aware of, which we have discussed. So what is money multiplier, students? It is defined as the ratio that relates the change in the money supply to a given change in the monetary base. Now what are the three things that are going to affect us? So this concept was propounded by Milton Friedman and Anna Schwartz in 1963. Now they say that the money supply is immediate determinants, right, of these three things. That three things will be affecting our money supply. First one is high powered money, which is nothing but behavior of central bank. Next one is reserve to deposit, that is behavior of commercial bank. Come on, you know this. And third one will be ratio of currency to deposit, that is behavior of public. So first one is behavior of central bank. So behavior of central bank controls the issue of currency, right? Nominal high powered money. So money stock is determined by the money multiplier and the monetary base. It's controlled by the monetary authority. See this. Public and behavior of public and commercial bank remains unchanged. That means if they behave in the same manner, I told you, right, you are taking an assumption. So this is the assumption. If it remains unchanged over time, the total supply of nominal money in the economy will vary directly with the supply of nominal high powered money issued by the bank. Directly. See this, directly. Hey, come on, see this part. Yes or no? Right. Next one is nothing but behavior of commercial banks. Let's have a look at it. So by creating credit, the commercial bank determine the total amount of nominal, by creating credit, nominal demand deposits. It is reflected in the ratio of their cash reserves to the deposit, which is known as reserve ratio. We have understood this. We have called this as required reserve ratio. Yes or no? All right. However, the commercial banks keep only a part or the fraction of their total deposit in the form of cash reserves. For the commercial banking system as a whole, actual reserve ratio, see this, actual reserve ratio is greater than the required reserve ratio, since the banks keep with them a higher than the statutorily required percentage of their deposit in the form of cash reserves. The additional unit of high powered money goes into what? Excess reserves. So if there is higher level of excess reserves, of course it will contract our money supply. So see this, excess reserves do not result into creation of money. Do not is a very important word. When the cost of holding excess reserve ratio rises, that is opportunity cost. So we will expect that the excess reserve ratios will fall. Simple. And we will increase the level of money supply in the economy. Similarly, if there are more deposit outflows, right? So what we will do? We will of course go ahead and increase the level of excess reserve ratio. This is what we have studied, isn't it? These are the things, students, which I have marked are very important. Anything else is there, it's just additional English, so don't worry about this. Let's go ahead. Next one is the behavior of the public, which you are very well aware of. Now to summarize the money multiplier approach, the size of money multiplier is determined by the required reserve ratio and the central bank, the excess reserve ratio, that is a commercial bank currency ratio of the public. Now all these things, students, will result into the money multiplier as well as the money supply. Now after this, credit multiplier. Now what do you mean by credit multiplier? See, if there is a required reserve ratio which is kept by RBI, yes or no? So what we need to do? We need to maintain that. So if we maintain that, after that how much credit will be created in the market? For that we are having one formula that you need to remember. It will be credit multiplier is equal to 1 divided by required reserve ratio. So let's suppose if the required reserve ratio is 10%, what will happen then? How many times the credit will get multiplied? It will be 1 divided by 10%, that is 0.10. This will be equal to 10 times. So let's suppose if the initial deposit is nothing but 1 lakh rupee. So 1 lakh rupee will rotate 10 times. The total money supply in the economy will be 10 lakhs. Very clear in this. Similarly, one example is given here. Let's suppose the required reserve ratio is 20%. What will be the credit multiplier? Of course, you are aware about it. It will be 5. And if let's suppose 1 lakh rupees is the initial deposit, then 1 lakh into 5 will be 5 lakh rupees. That completes our entire unit number 2, friends. I hope you are very clear in this. Now we shall go ahead to the next unit, and that is unit number 3, which is called as monetary policy. Unit 3, monetary policy. Now primarily, students, this unit will be divided into 2 parts, as you are aware about it. What are the 2 parts? Come on quickly. First one is monetary policy framework, and second part is organizational structure for monetary policy decisions. Now when I talk about monetary policy framework, first one is meaning of monetary policy. Then we have objectives of monetary policy. Then we have analytics of monetary policy. And lastly, we will be having instruments of monetary policy. In organizational structure, it is divided into 2 parts. What are the 2 parts? First one is monetary policy framework agreement, and second one is monetary policy committee. So this is the overview that you need to understand about unit number 3. Very important part. Now first of all, what do you mean by meaning of monetary policy? So when I talk about meaning of monetary policy, see, it is nothing but using various tools, various instruments and stabilizing our economy. Now here various tools and instruments means basically we will try to influence our reserve ratios in order to increase or decrease the interest rates on deposits as well as on loans, which will increase or decrease the money supply. Increasing and decreasing the money supply means it will influence the level of economic growth as well as inflation in the economy, which will help our country to stabilize itself and lead to attain more and more better economic goals and objectives. That's meaning. When we talk about objectives, there are various objectives like supporting government securities market, diverting more and more loans to required sector. I have written here primary sector because it is the most needy sector at the time being. After that, students, promoting more and more investment because that is the one which will result into economic growth and development, right? Apart from that, now next one is nothing but analytics. Listen to this very carefully. Analytics of monetary policy, also known as monetary transmission mechanism. There are 5 channels, students, which are used. First one is nothing but interest rate channel. Do you remember what is interest rate channel? What are the 5 channels? First of all, interest rate channel, exchange rate channel, quantum channel, asset price channel, and lastly it is expectations channel. So interest rate channel, interest will be influenced either at the time of recession or at the time of recovery. See friends, when I say recovery, I mean to say when there is inflation in the country. So we need to understand how is going to RBI influence the level of interest rate in order to protect economy from recession and from inflation. So at the time of recession, what will RBI do? RBI will try to curtail or reduce the level of interest rate in the market. Why is that so? Reduction in interest rate will reduce the deposits in the market. If people don't deposit in the banks, that means they will go and spend money in the market. So consumption expenditure will increase. Consumption expenditure increases, that means aggregate expenditure or aggregate demand is also increasing. This will result into additional level of investment in the economy. Additional investment means what? More and more production in the economy. More production means there will be more employment in the economy, and increase in employment mean the income level will also increase. So when income increases, employment increases, production, do you think we are in recession? No, at this time GDP will grow. So in order to grow the GDP, what we have to do? In order to grow GDP, what we have to do? Reduce the level of interest rate at the time of recession. This is what it means. Similarly, at the time of recovery or inflation, what we need to do? Increase the level of interest rate. Why is that so? Because at the time of recovery, already people are having more and more money, because of which there is inflation. So increasing the interest rate will increase the level of deposits. More deposits in the banks, that means less in the hands. So less in the hands of people, money supply will be down. If money supply is less, what will happen in the market? Demand will be less. So aggregate demand tends to fall. Whenever aggregate demand falls, that means the sellers, now to attract the consumers, will reduce the level of price. Ultimately, reducing the level of price means inflation will be under control. Simple. That's interest rate channel, friends. Similarly, second one, we are having exchange rate channel. Now what is exchange rate channel? RBI will try to influence the level of exchange rate. Can it do so? Yes, of course. So when I say exchange rate channel, either RBI will intervene at the time of recession or at the time of recovery, isn't it? Now when I say recession, when I say recovery, what will RBI do with the level of exchange rate? See students, please understand. $1 is equal to 75 rupees. RBI can make it 80 rupees, RBI can make it, let's say, 70 rupees. So 80 rupees is nothing but our currency is devalued. Let me call it as depreciation for the time being. And 70 means our currency is appreciated. The question here is, at the time of recession, whether country's currency will be appreciated or it will be depreciated by RBI. See, when there is recession, what is our main aim? We need to increase our level of exports and we need to reduce the level of imports. Now, when will exporters be more excited to export more? When they get more price for the product, that is 80 rupees. When will imports be less? When things become expensive, that is at 80 rupees. So here at the time of recession, in order to increase the level of exports and decrease the level of imports, what will RBI do? RBI will depreciate the currency. Now depreciating a currency means export will increase. So if exports are greater than imports, you know this, GDP will rise. Understood? Similarly, at the time of recovery, our main aim is to reduce the level of export so that the goods and services are available in the country itself, and increase the level of import so that whenever there is higher price in the market, imported products will compete with the domestic products and will try to reduce the domestic product price. So export decrease, import increase. When is that possible? When will importers import more? When will you import more from other country? When you get it cheaper at 70 rupees? Yes or no? So at this time, at the time of recovery, we will appreciate our currency. When we appreciate our currency, exports decreases, imports increases. That means goods availability, that is aggregate supply, will increase. If there is more and more supply, that means price will be under control, inflation would fall. This is how, friends, exchange rate channel would operate. Third channel, quantum channel, also known as balance sheet channel, because the effect is the same. Now when I say quantum channel, what will government do at the time of recession and at the time of recovery? So at the time of recession, RBI will reduce the cost of credit so that more and more people can take loans, which will increase the level of investment. It will create a positive impact on balance sheet. That means there will be economic growth. Similarly, at the time of recovery, students, cost of credit will increase. That means it will become more expensive. More expensive means investment will be less, and so will aggregate demand be. And aggregate demand falls, of course, inflation will be under control. So this is how, students, quantum channel or balance sheet channel operates. Fourth one, it is asset price channel. What is asset price channel? It is trading between two things, trade off between two things actually, equity market and bond market or money market. So there are two aspects again. First one will be recession, other one is recovery. Now, two markets, let's say, one is bond market, the other one is equity market. Now, equity market, real estate market, one and the same. Bond market, equity market. See, at the time of recession, equity market will be struggling, yes or no? So we need to uplift the equity market. So in order to uplift the equity market, we will have to make bond market unattractive. Unattractive means reduce the level of interest rates which are offered by bond market, so that people can divert their funds from fixed securities or interest bearing financial assets to risk taking assets, that is shares. Similarly, at the time of recovery, there will be highly inflated stock market. So we need to control them. And how will control them? So to divert the money from equity market to money market, that is to bond market. So make bond market more attractive in order to curtail the level of inflation. So this is how asset price channel works. Fifth one, students, it is nothing but expectations channel. Now when I say expectations channel, no arrows as such, just the theoretical part that you need to remember. RBI will play with the expectation of the people. For example, RBI will try to influence your choices by setting subconsciously in your mind that there is prosperity which is coming in the market. They will set expectations very high. For example, they will advise you and taking more loans and investing in the market, because they will say that GDP is going to grow by so and so percentage. So the sellers will be excited, they will take up new projects because of the expectations which is set. So whenever the expectations are influenced, it will be called as expectations channel. So these are the 5 channels, students, which we also call it as analytics of monetary policy or monetary policy transmission mechanism. Next part, it is nothing but instruments. Now when I say instruments, friends, when I say instruments, please remember, in case of instruments, you need to know what is your operating target and what is your intermediate target. That means for what reason you are making this monetary policy. Depending upon that, you will select the right instrument. First one, it is cash reserve ratio. I am sure you are aware about cash reserve ratio. This is the amount of deposit that every bank has to maintain with RBI. It is compulsory. Now, let's say if CRR is increased. Why would CRR increase and what will be the effect? The money supply will come down because of increase in CRR. If money supply falls, students, that means aggregate demand will be low in the market. If aggregate demand is low, that means it will control the level of inflation by reducing the prices. Similarly, let's suppose CRR is decreased. So if CRR is decreased, what will happen to money supply? Money supply will go on increasing. If money supply increases, that will be more investment in the market. Higher level of investment means higher level of economic growth in the country. So this is how CRR will operate in order to influence our economic cycle. Controlling inflation will be at the part of or at the time of recovery, and economic growth will be at the time of recession. So time to time, students, our governor, that is RBI's governor, will be taking care of all these reserve requirement, CRR. Second one, similar to CRR, it is nothing but SLR, stands for statutory liquidity ratio. When I talk about statutory liquidity ratio, it can be maintained in cash, it can be maintained in gold, it can be maintained in government securities. Now, what will happen if we increase the level of SLR? More reserves will be kept with the commercial banks themselves, money supply will be less, inflation will be under control. Similarly, if SLR is, let's suppose, reduced, what will happen? Money supply will increase. If money supply increases, there will be more and more money supply, then there will be economic growth in the country. Statutory liquidity ratio. Similarly, students, we are having one more thing. It is now called as liquidity adjustment facility. What is liquidity adjustment facility? It comprises of two things: repo rate and reverse repo rate. Repo rate is nothing but the rate at which commercial bank borrows money from RBI. Reverse repo rate is the rate at which the central bank borrows money from the commercial bank. Repo rate and reverse repo rate will be increased in order to control the money supply. Because if repo rate and reverse repo rate increases, the loan prices, the interest rate will increase. That will reduce the money supply in the market. Reduction in money supply means control over inflation. But there is a need of more and more money in the market. So at that time, RBI will reduce the reverse repo rate as well as the repo rate. That will increase the money supply in the economy. Increase in money supply in the economy will bring more and more economic growth at the time of downfall, contraction or recession. So this is how repo rate and reverse repo rate will be adjusted. Now students, let's suppose RBI is doing extremely brilliant in reverse repo rate as well as repo rate. There is one more thing which is called as bank rate. Earlier it was there, but now it is merged with repo rate, so we need not study it separately. Well, next one is marginal standing facility. What do you mean by marginal standing facility? Once your repo rate requirement is met, I mean when you have exhausted the limit of repo rate, still you need money, still you are in requirement of money, then this window gets activated, which is called as lender of last resort. Lender of last resort. Under lender of last resort, now this is the last chance for commercial bank to raise money. After this, RBI will not be in a position to help the commercial banks in any way. So marginal standing facility, that is lender of last resort, how is RBI going to help? So RBI first of all has this repo rate which you have already taken. Now after taking the repo rate, let's suppose you are still in requirement of money, then what will happen? Then you will go for MSF. Now what is MSF, friends? See, in under MSF, you can apply for loan to the RBI only between Monday to Friday, that too on working days, between 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and that too only in RBI's Mumbai office. Okay, minimum amount will be 1 crore and multiples of 1 crore. So if you are having or meeting all these requirements, only then you can go for marginal standing facility. Now these requirements are set so that people think that RBI is very strict and will not be taking RBI lightly in order to influence the money supply in the market. So that's marginal standing facility, no arrows required here, just the understanding of this will be sufficient. Similarly, we are having market stabilization scheme. What is market stabilization scheme, students? It is an MOU between Government of India and RBI, Memorandum of Understanding between government and RBI. Now under this agreement, what does government and RBI do? It improves the sterilization process of the foreign currency with the Indian markets. See, if there is excessive fund is coming from other countries of the world in our country, it will bring inequality, it will bring volatility in the market. So RBI will intervene in the market along with government and try to reduce that volatility by decreasing the level of money supply. Similarly, if let's suppose too much of money is taken away from our country, so at that time there will be a shortfall. So in order to meet that shortfall, again RBI and government will intervene and they will together work by inputting more currency in the market and sterilize it with the existing currency in order to stabilize our economy. That's market stabilization scheme. The last one, students, it is nothing but open market operation. Now what do you mean by open market operation? Open market operation means buying and selling of securities in the open market in order to influence our level of money supply. So see this, if I want to reduce the level of money supply, I am RBI, what will I do? I will sell more and more currencies, or I will sell more and more government securities in the market so that I can take away money from the country. So taking away money from the country will reduce the money supply in the economy, which will ultimately reduce the level of inflation. Do you agree to this? Similarly, let's suppose if we want to increase the level of money supply, so rather than selling, RBI will start buying and start paying money to the general public, which will increase the level of investments in the market, and if investments increase, there will be economic growth in the country. So this is how, my friends, the instruments will be used. Now look at this very carefully. What are we understanding? We are understanding something called as monetary policy. Under monetary policy, first of all, we understood meaning, then we understood objectives, then we understood analytics, that is in the channels, and right now we have completed instruments. I hope you are very clear in this part. Now the next one is nothing but organizational structure. Now when I say organizational structure, there are two things here: monetary policy framework agreement and monetary policy committee. Let's have a look at it. Monetary policy framework agreement. Now friends, you need to by heart the points which I am saying to you, very important points. What is monetary policy framework agreement? First of all, it is an agreement between the central government and RBI. Okay. First. Second, it was made by amending our RBI Act and it is applicable from 2016. The main aim is inflation targeting. Now when I say inflation targeting, government in consultation with RBI will set inflation for every 5 years. Started from 2016, so 2016 to 21, the inflation targeting was 4% per annum. Now you are also aware, I am also aware that 4% exact valuation cannot be the outcome. So what government has done? Government has given an upper tolerable limit of 6% and lower tolerable limit of 2%, which means in between these two things, inflation rate can fluctuate, but it should not cross 6% or 2%. However, if it crosses, now if it remains more than 6% or less than 2% for 3 consecutive quarters, only then this will be called as failure. And how would government come to know about it? So RBI has to publish something called as monetary policy report every 6 months. So all these terms and conditions are part of monetary policy framework agreement. Very clear in this? Similarly, we are having monetary policy committee. What is monetary policy committee? So this is a committee, that is group of members coming together. How many? 6 members. Now when I say 6 members, 3 members are from RBI. Remaining 3 are from central government. Who are these 3 members from RBI? First one is governor, who is the chairman of monetary policy committee. Then it will be deputy governor, and third one will be any elected representative from RBI. The 3 members from government are the people with integrity, having knowledge of what? Having knowledge of finance, economics, banking, monetary policy, Now, why this type of agreement or committee is made where there are three people from RBI and three are from government? Because there is diversity of views, there will be specialized experience, there will be accountability, responsibility will be there, right? So, for all these reasons, this type of membership or committee is made. Friends, one more thing that you need to remember. This is the committee which is made, but these six people don't go and actually make the policy. They approve the policy by looking at the changes which are to be made. Then who helps them? Monetary Policy Department assists the Monetary Policy Committee in order to make the monetary policy. So that's the overview of our entire unit number 3. Let's have a look at the theoretical part which is given, the question answers. Monetary policy: explain the objectives of monetary policy in an economy, access the instruments and targets. It encompasses all the actions of central bank which are aimed at directly controlling the money supply and regulating the demand for money. Monetary policy is in nature the demand side macroeconomic policy because it will be influencing our aggregate demand. What are the objectives? To regulate the issue of banknotes, rapid economic growth and price stability in the economy, debt management of the country, moderate structure of interest rate so that to encourage investment, exchange rate stability and balance of payment equilibrium. Balance of payment equilibrium is nothing but exports and imports. Adequate flow of credit to productive sectors. And last one, efficient market for government securities. These are the important objectives of monetary policy. Going ahead, what are the operating procedures and instruments? So first one, we need to select our operating target, that is the inflation rate. Intermediate target, that is nothing but target of our growth rate, and we need to select our right policy instrument. So when we are talking about policy instrument, there can be direct instruments which we have spoken about. First one is cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio. Another one can be direct credit control, administered interest rate. Indirect instruments will be repo rate and reverse repo rate, open market operation, marginal standing facility, market based discount window. Now, next one friends, inflation target is to be set by the government. You are aware about it, in consultation with RBI once in every 5 years. This is what we have spoken about just right now friends. Now, how much is the inflation target? 4%, which is from 2016 to 2021. Upper tolerance limit is 6%, lower tolerance limit will be 2%. Monetary policy committee is prepared, monetary policy report is prepared every 6 months. Now, when we are talking about target instruments, CRR, it is nothing but cash deposits which are to be maintained with RBI. It is mandatory reserve for all. Bank have to pay monetary penalty if they don't maintain the CRR. Currently it is 4%. SLR 20%. SLR increases and decreases. So increases during inflation, SLR will be increased, and during deflation SLR will be decreased. Liquidity adjustment facility, go on marking students, these are the important points. Liquidity adjustment facility is nothing but the repo rate and the reverse repo rate. So we are having repo auction and reverse repo. Then it will be marginal standing facility, which is an extension of the repo rate facility which is given, right? So minimum amount 1 crore and in multiples of 1 crore. Other rules and regulations I have already given to you, so it's very simple for you. Market stabilization scheme we have understood, bank rate, and lastly it is open market operation. So these are the instruments students. Why I have not marked anything inside, I will tell you the reason also. You already know the meaning of these instruments. We have studied this in arrows, yes or no? We have studied all these things, how it is going to influence, right? CRR, SLR. You have to just convert these things, these arrows into English. That is it, nothing else. Continuing. Central bank is a banker's bank. Yes, of course it is a banker's bank. Why? A central bank is a banker's bank as it provides liquidity to bank when the latter face shortage of liquidity. Now, the scheduled commercial bank can borrow from the discount window against the collateral of securities. They will have to give these security students like government security, commercial bills, treasury bills, other eligible papers, etc. Now, why this is done? So first of all, it is an extension of support to the commercial bank. So this type of support earlier look the form of refinance loans given by the commercial banks to various sectors. Liquidity adjustment facility is an extension by Reserve Bank of India to the commercial banks, but not to the RRBs, that is regional rural banks. RBI financial accommodation to commercial banks through repos and reverse repo rate are under LAF. Now when we are talking about LAF or marginal standing facility, when it was announced, our scheduled commercial banks can borrow additional amount for overnight money from their liquidity ratio also, but only up to a certain part, and that will be given at a penal interest rate. Penal interest rate means what? See, after you have completed the restriction of LAF, then you can go for MSF. But when you are going for marginal standing facility, that is MSF, it will be an additional interest rate from the normal repo rate. Next one, students, explain the lending channel or the balance sheet channel. Now, when we are talking about bank lending channel and balance sheet channel, these are nothing but what? Quantum channel. So, credit channel operates by altering the access of firms and household to bank credit. Most businesses and people mostly depend on the bank for borrowings. An open market operation that leads first into the contraction of bank reserves and then a contraction in the bank credit requires bank to cut on their lending. This in turn makes the firm that are especially dependent on the bank loan to cut back on their investment spending. See this. If the reserve rate is increasing, open market operation is not favorable, then investment will be less for the business houses. That means there will be decline in the aggregate output and employment following a monetary contraction. That means for reducing the inflation levels. Balance sheet channel. Similarly, friends, when we talk about balance sheet channel, as the firm's cost of credit rises, the strength of its balance sheet deteriorates. So there is a direct effect of monetary policy on the balance sheet. As the interest rate increases, it results into increase in the payments that the firms are going to pay to the banks. An indirect effect occurs, same in the increase rate works to reduce the capitalized value of the firm's long-lived assets. Now there is a negative effect on balance sheet. So what will the firms do? Try to sell at a minimal price to the people. That means avoiding the output and employment increment in the future. The entire thing can be vice versa now. Explain the policy rate. We have already discussed. You need not study this additional part, students, because this is already covered in LAF. Monetary Policy Committee, an important landmark in the India's monetary history in the constitution of an empowered 6-member Monetary Policy Committee in 2016, which comprises of RBI Governor, Deputy Governor and one official nominated from RBI board. The remaining 3 central government nominees representing the Government of India, who are persons of ability, integrity and standing and having knowledge and experience in the field of banking, economics or finance and monetary policy. Now why this kind of monetary policy is set up? As you know, it is diversity of view, specialized experience, individual opinion, representativeness and accountability. Finally, students, it will be monetary policy department that will help monetary policy committee in formulating the monetary policy. Next, this entire process is based on what? It is based on monetary policy framework agreement. Now when I talk about this agreement, this was set up in 2016 as we have already discussed. In this agreement, students, who was the expert committee? It was under Urjit Patel. Reserve Bank once in 5 years they are going to set the inflation target. 4% is the inflation target with upper tolerance limit 6%, lower tolerance limit of 2%. And this is a repetitive point again. RBI is mandated to publish a monetary policy report in every 6 months. I hope friends you are very clear in unit number 3 of chapter number 3. Now that completes our entire monetary policy as well as money market. I will see you again in the next part, that is nothing but chapter number 4, which is international trade. Thank you.